Hello, everybody. All right, we're so happy to see everybody today.
Yes.
Welcome to our family-ish table talk. Y'all have been so supportive with being here from session to session. I mean, we have gotten into some really tough topics, and we expect to continue to do that today. But today is kind of sad. It's kind of sad a little bit, right? Because this is our last one. This is our last one, you know, and so we're having mixed emotions about that, but we're gonna try to make it a great one tonight. I need y'all to pray for me because I have some kind of little demon or something on my camera. It never does this, and it's just so if it folds up, we're just gonna bring it up, but keep us in prayer on that. But I just want to give a shout out to Pastor Snell and Pastor Goodrich for just putting together a great and awesome panel, great, awesome discussion. I mean, they have been power packed, and we have been talking about a lot of stuff we're not used to talking about, right? It's kind of making folks uncomfortable, make me a little uncomfortable sometimes.
Absolutely, but we're excited. We're excited to be here, y'all. The topic tonight is the pain and pleasure of parenting. So we're going to dive into parenting tonight. We have a great panel waiting for you. I'm going to introduce them later, but we have parents that has small children, that has teenagers, empty nesters, single parents. Like, we covering it all tonight. So we're gonna take a little bit of a commercial break, and then we're gonna come back on, introduce our panel to you, and we're gonna get into the discussion. We're excited.
I'll find myself wanting to please the crowd. I'll find myself wanting to please the crowd. I'll need you to remind me that I should obey God. That I should obey God. I'll act like I don't have any problems.
I'll need you to show me how to share my struggles with others.
I want to have a lot of money so I can buy what I want.
I'll need you to teach me that my things belong to God.
That my things belong to God.
I'll struggle with my looks and appearance.
I'll need you to remind me that God wonderfully made me.
I'll tend to think about myself before others.
I'll need you to teach me that the last will become first. The last will become first.
The last will become first.
I'll think I'm a lot smarter than I actually am.
I'll think I'm a lot smarter than I actually am.
I'll need you to show me how to learn from God's wisdom.
I'll want to avoid hard conversations.
I'll want to avoid hard conversations.
I'll need you to show me how to speak the truth
in love. I'll look for happiness in many different places. I'll need you to show me that joy is
found in following Christ.
I'll find myself stuck in bad habits.
I'll need you to show me the way out. I'll need you to show me the way out.
I'll need you.
I'll need you. I'll need you. I'll need you. To point me toward Christ when no one else will.
To point me toward Christ when no one else will.
All right.
Look at all these beautiful faces. Yes.
Good to see everybody.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Yes. So good to see y'all.
Are y'all ready for a good discussion? Awesome. So we're going to start introducing our panel, and then we're going to jump right into it.
All right. We're going to start off with Pastor Alfred Johnson II and Sister Paula I. Johnson. Let's start off with Pastor Johnson. We're glad to have you all tonight. Pastor J. Alfred Johnson II is the CEO of On Point Coaching, focused on executive relationships, personal and ministry coaching. He was employed for 48 years with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, having served congregations of 13 to 1,000 members. His experience as a conference department director, conference president, union executive secretary, and North American Division Adult Ministries director. And his ministry continues. Amen. So we're happy to have Pastor Johnson and Sister Johnson, Sister Paula Johnson, of course, the wife of Pastor Johnson. And Paula I. Johnson is COO of On Point Coaching, an organization that focuses on executive relationships, personal and ministry coaching, and has had the privilege of serving in the offices of organizations that have opened opportunities for her to conceive, plan, lead, organize, facilitate, and direct forums, meetings, retreats, and convocations. All right. Such events were designed to enhance, inform, inspire, and educate the attendees in a personal and professional capacity. We want to welcome you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. And we're going to move on to Dr. Denise Shaver. Dr. Shaver is the divorced parent of 3 now adult children, Lenice 20, Linnea 19, and Linwood 18. She is an educator and has been served in church and public schools for over 30 years in several capacities, from pre-K to higher education as well. She believes her calling is to work to improve education in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Welcome.
Yes, welcome, Denise. And then we're going to move to Dr. Chinwe Afuribe. She is a proud Oakwood alumnus, class of 2001, and Nigerian American pediatrician with over 16 years of clinical practice across the U.S., United Kingdom, Africa, and Canada. After working in group practice and community health centers, she founded a pediatric primary care clinic near Austin, Texas called Centered Youth Clinic and Consulting, CYCC. CYCC provides direct primary and specialty care services with community partnerships for positive youth development. Her time as an Adventist Youth Ministries Director in Minneapolis ignited her passion to integrate youth engagement into the infrastructure of programs promoting adolescent health and well-being. She currently serves as the Associate Program Director for the Society for Adolescent Health and Medicine and loves mentoring aspiring physicians through the Austin Black Physicians Association. She is board certified in pediatrics and lifestyle medicine, fellowship trained in adolescent medicine, and obtained a Master of Public Health and Community Health Promotion. Personally, Chinwe is married with 2 children. She loves to laugh, is grounded by her faith, and is an innovative community builder who loves languages or acts of service and quality time. Welcome.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
And then lastly, we have, he's not a stranger. We have one of our good friends, Dr. Toussaint and Doctors Toussaint and Lakeisha Williams. They have been married and have worked side by side in pastoral ministry for 18 years. Both are avid educators and enjoy using creative methods to teach spiritual lessons to audiences of all ages. Due to a number of experiences in a variety of locales, Dr. Williams have gained numerous insights about marriage and family health that they are delighted to share. Presently, Dr. Toussaint Williams has the privilege of serving as the Associate Ministerial Director of the South Central Conference. Dr. Lakeisha Williams currently serves as a middle school special education instructor in Madison, Alabama. Together, Drs. Williams recently started the Minority Choice Fund, an educational and philanthropic organization that provides private school scholarships for minority students. This personal endeavor combines a number of interests that they have pursued over many years, including tuition support for students in Adventist education, spiritual education materials for family and youth ministries, and personal development seminars for churches. Welcome, everyone.
All right.
Thank y'all so much for being with us tonight. And y'all, we're just going to jump right in. You know, we're going to jump right in. The people want to hear it. They want to hear what you know. So we're going to jump in. And so we're just gonna throw the first question out there. You know, we have our children. You know, as the moms on the line, you know, we get pregnant. We have our babies. They're cute. They're cuddly. They come out, and we just love on them. But then they have to grow up, right? And so as they grow up, sometimes we can have issues with our kids not wanting to listen. All right. And so before I ask the question, let me just remind everybody to please, our audience, put your questions and comments in the chat. If you have any personal questions that you want to ask, we'll get to them. So put them in the chat. But I'm just going to throw it out there. Whoever wants to take it. We want to hear from everybody if we can. But how do I get my children to listen to me? Whether you have a small kid, an adult kid, teenage kid, talk to us. Let us know.
Married, unmarried, yes. How do we get these people to listen?
That's so interesting. We actually have 4 boys in our home. We have Eliezer and Uriah, 13 and 17. And then we have 2 young men that came up there with us. They're both of them are seniors. One, Camden Emmons, and another one, Max Rapone. And it's been an interesting journey, this idea of how do you get them to listen. One of the things we've kind of learned to do now, we're shifting gears as our boys are about to get out of the home. One of the things I'm learning to do, my wife reminds me of, she's disappointed because she's not here with us. She got the bug sick just yesterday, wanted to be with us. But one of the things she's teaching me and kind of connecting with them is taking time to just be in their space. And allowing them to kind of talk to us. And one of the things, they're at a place where it's not just one-sided, but we have to now, I'm having to learn how to decide or participate in this understanding where they're coming from. And in that process, in understanding where they are, they're able to kind of share with me a little bit more of that journey. And then also the blessing is, because my kids are teenagers, I just say, listen, y'all don't want to go anywhere. You're not getting any money. Oh, all of a sudden it gets there. That helps.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. Anybody else want to share? How do you get your kids to listen? Any adult kids that don't want to listen to their parents' advice?
I don't know any adult children that want to listen to their parents' advice.
Right.
Well, I'm learning as well, Dr. Toussaint, to listen more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Especially as they are starting to make that transition into adulthood, to realize that I've trained them and they actually do have sense. And I have to kind of listen. And I'm in the process of learning how to listen and transition to letting them make some of the decisions, even if they don't listen to me. Right. But letting go and say, I'm going to let you make that decision. But mostly trying to listen more and guiding more so that they will be willing to listen when I absolutely need something that they have to or should listen to.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of getting a common theme that from both of you, it seems like time, like being in their space and putting in time with them to just kind of, I guess we're building relationships, right? We're building relationships with our kids so that we can have that open door where they will talk to us and listen to us. Did anybody else want to share?
Well, I guess I could throw in one little thing, and that is that I have discovered as my children have aged, the youngest is 30. The youngest is 38, and the oldest is 47. Is 47. I have discovered that my offspring, our offspring, have their own minds. They have their own minds,
wow.
And they will oftentimes. I'm a traditional Seventh-day Adventist preacher, old dude, and many of all of them tend to see the church and choices differently than I see them.
Yes.
And they make their choices. I'm talking from fashion, I'm talking to entertainment, the whole nine. And guess what? I really have nothing to say about it.
Wow.
They have nothing they want to hear from me. and I'm halfway okay with that.
Well, you've done your work too, right?
You've
done your work. It's like, hey, train them up. So what else is left, right?
Well, I want to just throw this in, and thought came to me. Some things that are motivating to children growing up is incentives. It's one thing to take things from them, but also to give them some incentives. Next is experience. You told them time and time again, you tell a little child, don't touch the stove, it's hot, don't touch the stove. The child's going to touch the stove, and only experience is going to say, oh, I realized mom was right, don't touch the stove. So sometimes it's experience. And another thing that we have learned and kept in mind, each child is different. Same parents, came from the same womb, but they are different. And what has helped us is to understand human temperament. If you understand human temperament and you apply that to your lives and to the lives of your children, you will take away a bunch of frustrations.
Absolutely.
A bunch of frustrations. We've learned that we used to discipline each child the same, but realized that was futile because they didn't respond the same. One child you could talk to and you get weeping. Another child you could whip and they just laugh at you. So kids, they're different. And I have gotten to the point as my children have gotten to be adults, I try to skillfully make suggestions. You can't tell them what to do anymore. They're not under your roof anymore, but to skillfully make some suggestions and to try and make it sound like it might eventually be the idea. But that's what I've come to do.
Yeah. I love what Sister Johnson said about knowing their temperament, because I'm coming from the angle of a pediatrician, and a lot of things that we think about is developmental milestones. And we sometimes forget that there's certain, like you have love languages, but you also have how are they understanding information, how are they receiving the language that you're trying to impart onto them. And so, some kids, like when they're growing up and they're trying to walk, it takes a little bit of time for them to get to that. So when they stumble, we give them the opportunity to try again. But it seems like as they get older, we lose some of that patience to be able to allow them to keep trying. So when we say, why didn't you hear me when I say, how many times do I have to tell you? It's like, wait a minute, that's part of a milestone. Like they need to stumble and get up and stumble and get up. But the older they get, it's more, we take it more personal as parents. But when they're younger, it's an expectation that they need to try. So I think one, understanding how they understand information. Are they more visual? Are they more auditory? Are they more kinetic? And then figuring out like the way you're saying something, it may not register because that's not the way that they understand information for them to apply it in their lives. So yeah, thinking about that and making visuals out of lessons might be helpful depending on their age. I mean, I have 9-year-old and 7-year-old, my daughter and my son. And so, yeah, there are different ways that we have to be creative in terms of trying to teach life lessons. And the older they get, you still have to consider that in mind as well, too.
Absolutely. I know a lot of times we decide as parents, there's some good things that we learn from our parents, right? But then there's some things we just say we're not doing it that way, and some of those things are, I know some of the older school ways, which some of us, we're kind of traditional. I got some traditional ways. She snaps me out of it, but do we even need to explain why we are telling our children to do what we need them to do? Back in the day, it was just like, you do it because I told you
so.
You know what I'm saying? Don't ask me any questions. Now, is it important to explain? Is it a new day, or should that be enough?
I think it's so interesting you say that, and I think I saw it on the one of the comments that because our kids are different, they may need more explanation than others. It is completely different. I think we were raised, the Johnsons, I'm the same age as one of their boys. And, just that idea of, because I said so, it's like, why do I even have to have this conversation? And so I'm going through my mind processing and fuming. But, our kids are different, but then also understanding this because information is so prevalent for them. On their smartphones, Google tells them whatever, they're missing, or they tell us something, they go and Google it anyway. Well, Google says our seriousness. And, we have to understand information is not something that is for them. It's expected. Like, it's not even an issue of respect or not respect. For them, they see this as a norm. And as digital natives, they've grown or grew up in this experience where we are just kind of immigrants in this experience. Right. And so in that journey, that's going to help me understand this. And then also personalities. One of my sons is, the life of the party going, the other one really needs to be very cerebral, wants to make sure understand. And the thing is, it's not a disrespect thing. It's more so, okay, how can I learn or know as much that you need me to know so that I don't make a mistake to disappoint you? And that's one of the things like,
when I'm asking, I'm actually.
Yeah, it's actually, I want to be able to make sure that I don't make a mistake so you don't get on me. So I'm going to ask all the details up front. so that when it does happen, I won't be able to go back and say, because I don't want you to be disappointed. That's the thing that hurts me more than not knowing, but disappointing you. And so that's part of it.
But haven't we caught ourselves in a catch-22 because we've told our children, if you don't understand something, ask about it.
We just don't want it on ourselves.
Now. Yeah, don't ask me.
We don't want them to ask us. We want them to
ask Google. Right? Ask Google.
Don't ask me that yet.
If you don't understand, ask. You won't learn unless you ask. Yeah. So we told them that. So we're in a catch-22.
That's true.
I think another thing is maybe don't wait for them to ask, right? Well, we need to have a little bit of a paradigm shift. And I'm saying what should happen, I'm not saying I do it, is maybe tell them up front. The reason why I'm telling you this is so that they don't have a reason to have to ask. You've given them all the information, right? And now it's a matter of, are you going to be obedient, right? And so I think that's not something that I always do, but sometimes I do it, Yeah.
Wow. And I think it also prepares them for adulthood. I mean, if we're trying to teach them skills for them to apply later, it sometimes might be helpful for them to understand the rationale now so that they can tie the two together. As opposed to, I'm just doing it because my mom said, or I'm just doing it because my dad said. It's like, oh, I understand the reasoning behind their counsel, and we can feel a little bit more secure when they're out of our house. It's hard when they're in our house. Yes, it's growing pains.
We have a question that keep popping up. I think we should hit it. I know y'all probably see it too. And this is a pretty serious question. The pandemic has changed a lot of things, right? And so, a lot of people are not going back to church just because they're so used to watching it virtually now. But what about our kids? Like this young lady, she said that since the pandemic and lockdown from church, my kids now don't like, nor do they want to go to church anymore. That's a tough one. How do we fix that, guys?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Well, what are we doing? We'll throw that out there to you all.
I guess
my question would be as to what the Sabbath morning routine is. Sometimes it's a hassle and a hustle. You're getting them out of bed, rushing them. What's the Sabbath routine? Is it something that you kind of ease into, or what? I think that has a lot to do with it. And then our kids are digital. They are, it's on video now. They don't have to get in the car and go to church. But the solution, I think it has to. I don't know. Solution probably has to do with a part of the solution. I would say has to do with what's the Sabbath routine. How engaged are you into the Sabbath to embrace it?
I think those are great. I mean, I love the idea just of a routine. And I think that's one of the things that's a question we all have to wrestle with, because I mean, for some people, like, listen, I enjoy just, be in my pajamas. So it's not just a kid thing, everybody's making that adjustment. How are we ramping up? And I think a couple of things is with the age of the kids also makes a difference. But, with teenagers, in our oldest drives, and we have to remind them, okay, so this is the Sabbath. You are going to be able to, can we stay home or can we watch today? And we worked it out. And so my wife is a lot more open, kind of said, Joey, my wife is a little more liberal. Say, okay, one Sabbath out of the month, you can, sit down and have that moment where you do virtual church. But the other ones, you're going to get your hips up and you're going to go to church. Our blessing is, they have sometimes when they're able to dress a little bit differently. And, that's something I'm still working through. But I think that's one of the things, having a system and then being able to have some dialogue about what is, because they were saying, hey, listen, for 2 years, we did a phenomenal job. We were faithful. We did, we came to church. We were in our pajamas. And so making that adjustment is going to be a challenge. But I do think it's something as together, as like you mentioned, Sister Johnson, working together as a parent, being a part of the process and being part of that system or routine will make a huge difference in making that adjustment.
I think when your kids get to kind of the stage that my kids and a lot of my friends' kids' age is, where they're really, even if they're still in the home, they're a lot more independent. I'm gonna put some of that on the churches to create spaces where these young people want to come. And I don't mean entertainment. I mean, these young people want things to be relevant, right? And if COVID did nothing, it disrupted church, right? And it started to bring to question the relevance of church, right? And what was it doing for you? And that is the question that I think we have to start answering. These young people want to be active. So they don't want to come to church and sit down anymore because now they can get church online. So when am I coming from? And I think some of that is for the church to answer that question and to really meet that need for that to be clear, for us to deal with some of this.
Absolutely.
I second that.
You know, and this is, you know, we had I've been talking to a number of people, and this pandemic has changed the way that we worship, right? And so this can bring a little bit of a conflict in the home for some of us, or even if the other parent's not in the home, things like that. So let's just say that we have you know, one parent that's ready to go back to church, other parent says no, and so there's kind of a, you know, we can't make a decision on that. We're both clashing because I'm more traditional, and then I'm saying, hey, we need to be in the church. We need to be in the building. We don't want to forsake the fellowship, and I don't think that happens online. You know, the fellowship, right? But then the other parent says, no, I think this is all right. And so then we have the children, like,
caught in the middle.
Kind of like, how do we? Any suggestions? Because we got a great panel here. Any suggestions on how we negotiate this type of situation and keep a happy home, or keep a happy co-parenting, keep a happy situation as far as that goes?
And I think before we go, I think Pastor Snell is wanting to join in with us. So Pastor Snell, come on.
Oh, yes. Hey, you came in right on time.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
It's so good to see everybody. Listen, let me just say, man, this panel discussion, man, has got my brain percolating, man. This is some rich stuff that you guys have shared. Very, very meaningful, very, very relevant. Again, just good to see Dr. Chinwe, one of our classmates. And, thank you for coming to be a part of the panel, along with the Johnsons, of course, Dr. Williams, who forsook us and fled, but we're grateful to today. And Ms. Denise and the Wisest, thank you all so much. But yeah, I just want to just kind of check in for a few minutes and just kind of soak it in a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Right.
I want to respond. Can I respond to the question that was raised? How can we? I think the pastor hit on it this morning. Are we telling our children church is necessary, but our daily home worship is not necessary by not participating in it? I think that has a lot to do with the thinking, how a child might process. Okay, we're going back to church for fellowship, you know, in person, that kind of thing. But is there a foundation for home worship that would assist in the child even wanting to say, yes, I want to go back, see my friends involved in church?
And I think too, I think our kids, they have too many options, to be honest. You know, I think kids have too many options, and some things are non-negotiables. You know, we're as a family, we're going to church as a family. Like if I give you the option to drop you off, but I'm going back home, then you might say you don't want to go. But if we're getting in the car as a family, we're going to church. Everybody's getting in the car and we're going to church.
If we are, but what if we don't?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We need to be going to church.
I think that I got that from the no, but I think that one of the things Pastor Snell touched on today, even this concept of being on the same page, having the same vision, being able to communicate. As parents, you got to have, this is what we're doing as a family. This is the direction we're going. It may be in a different way or sphere, whether we all going to be in our pajamas or we're going to be doing something together. And I think one of the things you guys touched on, Troy and Chantel, is you can't argue in front of the kids, because kids go to the weakest link, and because if they want the parent to stay at home, and it happens with a lot of things, you know, we have to make sure that as parents we have that discussion behind closed doors, because if they see, oh, there's division in the camp, you know, they got to exactly they'll put in cracks and fissures, and that makes a difference in the relationship. But I think to have that conversation together, and then when you come out to the kids, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
If I could just jump in too, and Chantel hit on something in terms of the things that we're allowing to be optional. I think one of the questions I would pose for us, and I'm trying to get out of the habit of trying to tell people what they should or should not do. But I think one of the questions we asked in the sermon today is, okay, what are we trying to build? And when you define what you're trying to build, that determines what tools you're using. And so, like, man, if you're trying to build a spiritual champion in terms of your kids, then you're going to utilize certain tools to kind of make sure you get that outcome. And when it comes down to certain things being optional, my only question, again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I'm not throwing any shade, but post-pandemic, is church the only thing that's become optional? You know what I'm saying? Like, is school optional? Is music optional? Is the basketball team optional? Is, you know what I'm saying, going to see Black Panther, is that optional? Or is the only optional thing kind of church, ministry, spiritual things? So it's just, again, not trying to tell you what to do. I don't think people who are staying at home are lesser Christians or they don't love the Lord as much. But I just do think there's some things that we need to be considering, especially as it relates to spiritual health of our little ones.
Somebody just put in the chat, which I think is a very valid question. It's like, was the family heavily involved in church during the pandemic? Like, you waking up and still watching church faithfully, and
that's gonna factor.
Because essentially the routine was continuing to go on, and then once church opened up, you just moved from the couch to, so somebody did ask that question. I mean, somebody did.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good
I
stuff.
think also, and I think participation makes a difference. Being able to participate, engaged in finding ways to support. And I think one of the things, another one of our sister churches here did, they had, we're doing something where they had today was Thanksgiving, of course, the Thanksgiving theme, but creating a Thanksgiving, giving Thanksgiving backstory to where the kids are engaged in that. And I think one of the things we have to do is be intentional about if our church doesn't have it, and somebody say, well, we're going to do it in church. We're a part of the church as parents. We have to be creative, and just like our parents were, my parents were, in making sure that there is a place for my kids. And I'm not going to rely on just Pastor Snell or Pastor Goodrich. I'm going to make sure and be a part of that so that my kids know this is what we're doing as a family.
Absolutely. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Well, I don't know how many of y'all keep up with the news and things like that, but lately there's been something that was trending in the news with Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, he's a football player, professional football player, just been in the game for a long time. But Tom Brady been married for, I think, over 13 years. And what happened was he transitioned. He decided to retire, but then he decided to come back, to football. And what his wife was saying is that I'm done because I needed you at home. And we look at this situation, and I'm just thinking, like, it looks like an isolated situation. They got a lot of money and stuff like that. But how much different is it in just a general home, in a regular home, when we're talking about responsibilities? So the question is, what do I do when I feel like my spouse, my partner, my co-parentee is not doing their part in the family?
That's a good one.
I think Johnson, you have many years of experience.
I think that's time for a serious conversation.
I think so.
behind closed doors.
Yeah,
I think that's the time for a very, very serious conversation. Now, in 50 years of marriage, 50, can you believe that? 50 years. In 50 years of marriage,
that's awesome.
I haven't had to have that kind of conversation with my wife.
Wow.
But I would say that if it were the case, I would say particularly in light of today's sermon at church, I would say that's time to spend one of those half an hour sessions that the pastor was talking about this morning.
Might call for more.
That might call for more.
I think couples need to look at their responsibilities. There shouldn't be any expectations on one when you know that their responsibilities outside of the house are great, or vice versa. Not that inside house, because I was a housewife for years and years, But from the perspective of pastor's wife, I knew my husband was going to be away a lot. He was engaged, totally engaged in the church. So a lot of the responsibility when it came to getting the kids up or getting them ready for bed or even having worship, it was up to me. But what my husband was brought up, how he was brought up was he do the cleaning. He do he does the laundry. He does all those things. And I didn't even have to ask him to do that. That's what he does on his own.
Wow.
But there's some couples have not had that opportunity to say, you know, as they're approaching matrimony, these are the things I'd like to do, or these are the things I do. I think that has a lot to do with how you get to understand one another, but so your kids can see. And so you don't have to necessarily have these discussions behind closed doors all the time, but your kids can see how you relate to one another and deal with challenges or things that come up in the home.
Wow, that's really good. Yes.
So yeah, we're gonna pause really quick. Pastor Snell, I think you have a few announcements that you want to make. So we want to give you the floor.
Yeah. Listen, everybody, we're thankful to see you guys on this afternoon. Just want to put in one final push for this Sabbath for the Gratitude Project. Now, again, the Gratitude Project is not just our Thanksgiving Day special. It is 12 days of gratitude that commenced last Sunday morning, where we've been gathering online 8 o'clock Sabbath and Sunday mornings, Monday through Friday at 6:30 a.m. So we'll be on tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock a.m. And each day there's a different emphasis on gratitude, a different gratitude challenge, and different things that we are giving thanks for. So I want to encourage you to make sure that you check us out and join us tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time so that we can continue our theme of gratitude. We've been talking about what could have been, thanking God for health, provision, cross, access to God, family, and friends. And then tomorrow, we're just going to be giving thanks for the things that are operational, the things that are going well in our lives. Sometimes we can focus so much on what's wrong that we forget to give thanks for the things that are right. And then I just want to encourage you one last time, this coming Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day, we're so excited to launch our Thanksgiving special. It is, our theme is in everything, give thanks. So I want to encourage you. I know you guys are getting tired of hearing us say it. I want to encourage you to go to our Breath of Life YouTube page. It is going to be streamed exclusively there or on our app. So we want to have you go there and go ahead and subscribe. It's going to air 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I need you to know that both myself and Gianna are going to be giving messages of hope around gratitude. You're going to hear some testimonies, friends of mine, that are going to absolutely be steroids for your faith. You're going to hear the musical ministry of Karen Clark, John Stoddard, and Jonathan McReynolds. It's unlike anything that we've done in the Breath of Life ministry thus far. And guess what? This year, you don't even have to look for it. You don't have to check your local listings. You know exactly where to find us, exactly what time, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time on our Breath of Life YouTube page. Some of you have seen our trailer. If you haven't, I think we have it queued up. I want you to kind of give a little bit of a sense, a little teaser about what we're going to be presenting to you as we announce and as we present this year's Thanksgiving Gratitude Project. We've traveled from near and far for this single day of family, friends, food, and fun. It's Thanksgiving, and the year is just about over. So much has happened over the 11 months leading up to this day, the good, the bad, and the in-between. That's why I'm inviting you to be a part of this year's Gratitude Project, airing Thanksgiving morning at 10:30 a.m. Central Time on our Breath of Life YouTube page. You're going to be blessed with the awesome musical ministry of Jonathan McReynolds, Karen Clark Shear, and John Stoddard. I'm going to be giving messages on gratitude, and we'll be anchored by testimonies that remind us that we all have a reason to give thanks. Get ready, get set. It's time for the Gratitude Project.
So I put them in your hands. Ooh.
Yes. So again, just want to remind you, our theme is in everything, give thanks. Again, Thanksgiving season, the holidays tends to be a challenging time for a lot of people. It's a time where depression spikes. It's where people, men, are dealing with kind of loneliness and a very different reality as a result of loss. And it's just kind of designed to teach us that no matter what's going on in our lives, we have a reason to give thanks. So we encourage you to log on, subscribe, and then don't just come on yourself. Send it to somebody, share it with somebody, not just those who are already persuaded. Connect it with your family and friends who don't necessarily believe. They will be richly blessed as well. God bless you. We're going to turn it back over to our panel as we go into the second half of our afternoon discussion.
You're muted.
There you go. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for those announcements. We're excited about the Gratitude Project that's coming up. We're very excited about that. So we're gonna pick back up. Dr. Chinwe, she had to leave us. But we'll continue our discussion. Did you all want to give some feedback? I know we had to break in there for a minute. We were talking about what if you're not on the same page.
Yeah, what do I do if my partner, the person that's co-parenting with me, my spouse or what have you, if I'm feeling like that, they're not doing their part, how do we resolve that? That's kind of where we left off. Didn't know if we had any other comments about that before we move on.
I think that's just a great way. I mean, it is a challenge, but I think it's a great way to have that conversation and be upfront and honest. I think that's one of the biggest ways to grow in that area. Just to have those conversations, to be able to say, hey, listen, we're not seeing eye to eye on this. How can we grow together so that we can put up a united front for the kids?
Absolutely.
And the pastor mentioned today, you can't read minds. You can't read the other person's mind. They can't read your mind. So it's better to express yourself as opposed to just being quiet and frustrated.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, we're gonna move on to the next question.
Yes. So someone put in the chat, and I mean, we've all been here, becoming a first-time parent. What helped you? And I know now that may have been many years for you for the Johnsons. But Denise, maybe you can chime in on this one for us, and becoming a first-time parent, like what helped you? And they're saying, especially in the first few days. I know what helped me was a good old husband who didn't mind giving a bottle or two or changing a diaper in the middle of the night. But just transitioning to a first-time parent, that is a huge transition. It's a tough one. However, we've all done it. So how can we help? How can we help
somebody that's
this viewer that's experiencing transition to a first-time parent? How can we help them navigate through those first days?
Well, I can truthfully let you know that the Lord helped me to get through it. I was not an excellent first-time parent. I had a situation where I didn't hear the baby crying. She told me on many nights she ended up being up with the baby, not because just because I didn't hear the baby. I got better, but it was not easy. Starting off.
No, it wasn't. I know you asked Denise to say something, and I want to say something, but you'd asked Denise to say something. I'll say something after Denise says her part.
All right.
It's challenging. I remember, I literally remember the last time.
Your children are leaving.
Hey, we're talking about parenting.
Exactly. We're talking about parenting.
This is real life. Like,
just told them to
we
go
ain't
out.
playing around. This is what happens.
And I just told them to go out the back door. And they go right out the front door.
They don't listen.
In front of everybody.
That's real life right here.
That's real life. So the transition from parenting, not parenting to parenting, it's one of those things that you've never experienced before, right? So that's the first thing is don't stress like, oh, you're supposed to do it right. You've never done it before.
That's right.
And there is no right because you've never done it before.
Yeah.
And I remember with my first child, when my last helper walked out the house, right? And I was still married at the time. But when the last helper walked out the house, you remember, Home Alone, that's what I felt. I felt this amazing. What am I going to do with this whole little individual that needs me? And I don't know what to do. So if you're experiencing that, whether you're alone or with somebody, when you first have that, just give yourself a break and say, I don't know what to do because I've never done it before. And pray and do the basics, right? Don't just feed the baby, keep the baby safe. You change the baby's diaper. Don't try to do anything extra until you get comfortable with it, right? And understand that the lack of sleep and feeling like you're going crazy, all of that is just a natural part of it, right? You're going to be operating on 3 to 4 hours of sleep at max for the first couple of months, right? And now all of a sudden, something is completely dependent upon you 24 hours a day. They can't do anything for themselves. But don't feel that you're doing a bad job. You've never done it before. And just take every day at one day at a time.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I wish I had the support at the time to know that these are precious little gems the Lord has given to us. And they've come into the world. They're insecure. They don't know anything about this place that they've come into, and they need to be cuddled and embraced and made to feel secure. I know that I've heard many times people say, well, this child's not going to run my life. So they put a child on a rigid schedule. This child's going to sleep this way. The children, babies, as they grow, don't keep a schedule. They have no idea what a schedule is about. I'm sure you can try and, do a little, but when it comes to them needing, they need you. They need that skin to skin touch. Don't just put them in the bassinet and say they're going to cry until, they go to sleep. That's not fair to the child. And sometimes adults put expectations on babies, on children, as if they're talking to or dealing with another adult. And that's not fair to the child at all.
Yeah, I know I had a lot of expectation when we had our first child, and I literally experienced from Chantel coming home, and I don't know if y'all saw that commercial, but basically the woman, she was at home and she was doing all this work, and then as soon as the dad gets home, she's like that is real life, you know what I'm saying? I was like, wow, this is for real, and that kind of sent a signal to me about, sometimes we get twisted as far as what our roles are. But I wanted to get back kind of to the question that was put on the table, because not just for the person that asked the question, but for some of those that maybe be watching in the situation. I just want to get some advice from you on comments. Let's just say that, like, the person that asked the question, let's just imagine the situation that they were in, that it was a single parent situation, because this is very common in our community. It's something that we're trying to talk about more, things like that, because that's more representative of what our families are as African Americans, African-American Adventist families, all of that, right? While we're talking about families, right? And so let's just say that this person is in a situation that kind of similar to what Denise said, but then for them, they let's just say they're further along in the parenting process and slowly beginning to discover that, I'm getting very little to no help. Okay. And the thing is, I'm not really wanting to be bitter about the situation. I'm wanting to be positive about the situation. I'm wanting to be spiritual about the situation. But sometimes when a kid is small, you have this kind of situation. Sometimes the kids are 6 and 7 where they actually understand what's going on in the interactions. And so here is this one parent comes in, then they pop out. And I'm the disciplinarian. I'm doing all the work, and I'm trying to maneuver in how to understand how to be a good parent and still how to be saved when I'm not getting the help and support that I need. Because we got pastors here, so y'all seen this stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? We got a nice group. We got Denise, and so just some perspective on that.
Well, I want to speak to that. Thank you so much for asking that question, Troy, because that's a really important question, because I'm going to tell you that being a single parent is a very, very difficult and lonely place. I mean, because you can have all the aunts, uncles, friends, and family support there is, but when the doors close and the lights go off, you're by yourself. And when the child gets up in the middle of the night, you're still by yourself, right? And it's a problem in the church that we're not addressing, because I know that we're almost, there are probably the percentages are higher for single parenting, for single people, right? Because divorce, widowhood, and just being a single parent. So to answer the question about that, it's very important that, first of all, when I was married, I got divorced my kids were very young. So I raised my kids mostly by myself. And people used to call me a superwoman. They call me superwoman all the time because I went to school, I got my PhD and everything as a single mother with 3 kids. Mm-hmm. And everybody, see, don't clap. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The fact that they're all still alive makes it different.
And I told people, what the accomplishment for me was that everybody had matching shoes, including me. That was an accomplishment because I was going to school, I was working, and I had 3 kids. And so people on campus, I was at Andrews, and they used to be like, "Oh, you're a superwoman." And I knew it was a compliment, but I would still be a little offended because I was like, nobody wants to be a single parent. Just so you know, I mean, I know there might be that 1 or 2% that has the money and they'll go and make that decision, but usually there's a crisis. Usually there's something not planned, and so it's very important that you find. And when I say find, I mean you're going to have to create some kind of support group, because it's not going to happen naturally. Generally, it's just, if you don't already have family and friends that support you, you're going to have to go out and look for people who can help and support you. You're going to have to maybe reach out to people and say, "Look, I need help." And this is where the church could help, but they generally don't help because you don't know something you've never experienced, right? You don't know what that person's going through. And you might not even, like me, everybody was like, "You're amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, this is hard. I am so stressed. I am so tired." And right now I'm going through it at the other end, because I've done, praise the Lord, my children are doing well, but I'm tired, but they still need parenting and I'm exhausted, right? I'm literally exhausted. So it's important that the church acknowledge single parents and start being intentional about helping. And I don't mean Thanksgiving baskets. Those are nice. We appreciate the Christmas gifts and the gift cards and everything, but that's not the support. It's the more wraparound. And that's where the church should be playing a more vital, could be. Yeah.
I have a question, Dr. Denise, and that is, you indicate that there are some things that the church can do, and please understand the place from which this question is asking. It's not coming from a standpoint of, well, you said the church can do something. Well, just tell us what some things the church can do. No, it's not from there at all. It's from the standpoint of an appeal. What can the church? This question is from a place of sincerity. What can the church do?
Well, that's a great question.
And a lot of times the church doesn't know.
I don't think we do, because we're just getting to the point of, go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Denise. I concur with my husband. because I'm thinking all along while you're talking, what can the church do? But sometimes the church doesn't know to do something if they don't know that there's a need.
Absolutely. So when I was at Andrews, we had a lot of people coming back and forth. And so at that time, the head of the family life from the GC was visiting. And I said, hey, what can you all do for the single parents? And they said, well, you all are going to have to create some. Basically, he said, you're going to have to figure out how to help yourselves. Right? I was so offended. Right? Because he said, we try to meet the needs of the whole family. He was not trying to insult us. He was saying that the church tries to meet the needs of the whole family. And, and then I thought about AA, right? Mm-hmm. Alcoholics Anonymous, they're always started by people who were former alcoholics, right? Because they're the only ones that really understand the needs. Mm-hmm. So it probably will be for single parents to actually articulate what our needs are. But so let me tell you what you can do. You can talk to people and say, hey, what can we do? You can create a system where once a month where single parents can drop their children off and you take care of them and they're going to be safe. Because right now, even with me, with my kids walk out the house and drive, I don't have enough time in a day. I still don't have enough time in a day to do all the things. That's what you don't have. And then you can just say, can I come over and help you? Can I wash some clothes for you? Can I do some of the basic things that you all take for granted? It's nobody's designed to do the work of two people. No one person is designed to do the work of two people, right? And so even when you see those single mothers that have it going on and they're doing great things, they're still suffering, they're still struggling. Thank you for asking the question.
Awesome.
I think that's excellent. And Dr. Shaver, earlier when we were talking about Superwoman, I don't think that's a put down or anything. I think that's to affirm the fact that you've done a phenomenal job at knowing your kids, the fact that they are saying that they're, godly individuals, that they're respectful, that you've done a phenomenal job. And so I just want to affirm that because, I can't imagine what that looks like. I'm trying to do it myself, but you've done a phenomenal job. And all the other single mothers out there, parents out there, let me put it that way. We want to affirm that. But I really appreciate, I think it takes a lot of vulnerability to be able to assume, to share, hey, this is what I'm going through and this is what I need. Mm-hmm. I think on one side, as a pastor, there's sometimes it's like, sometimes people can be private. So should you cry or should you, this is my business? But I really appreciate what you're saying and being able to create an environment where there is, hey, this is what's going on. This is something I can do to help. And I really believe this is the start of this conversation. I want to affirm Pastor Snell and Pastor Goodrich for this particular process to open up this conversation so that we can be sensitive to those individuals who are single parents that are around us.
Definitely.
Right. And I'm wondering, Denise, has anybody thought about the idea of doing a Norma Rae, standing up on a platform and saying, I'm a single parent, and are there other single parents here? We'd like to organize, to be able to come together and to discuss what are the needs that we have, so that we can present them to the church, so that the church will know what our needs are. It's unfortunate, and it goes back to slavery and so forth, but the nuclear family for black people has been just broken right. and splattered all over the place. And so we don't have that nuclear family because of circumstances, because going on kids grow up and they move away. They have their own families. And so they're not at home to be able to get the support and encouragement that they might need. But the church doesn't know. But I'm telling you what, I'm saying this to you. It's the first time I've ever seen you. First time I've ever heard you talk. I'm going to tell you, the Lord has blessed you. The Lord has gifted you. That's why the Lord has just so put his veil over you that when people looked at you and saw what you were doing, they Superwoman.
Yeah,
you're a Superwoman. And I know it was God who got you through, but ring a bell. Let folk know, hey, some real stuff needs to happen for single parents.
So if you look, a lot of the single mothers are chiming in, and I appreciate that. So ironically, right before cooked dinner, she said to somebody, I when I was going through my PhD, I said, something's got to give. And the house has to be clean. And I stopped cooking. I started preparing more things because you have to do something to sanity. So right before I when I was a member of First Church under Pastor Snell, and kudos to Pastor Snell, he's an amazing person. I put in a proposal to start a single mother's ministry, and he endorsed it and gave us the go ahead. And then I ended up moving to Atlanta quickly. So
come on, Denise, man.
I left it with somebody, and I told them this is going to be the new person. But again, that person didn't have the passion. That person didn't have maybe the experience or whatever. And so I started, but I did start a single parents ministry officially, and First Church passed it, but then I left. So the single parents really do have to do it. I was at one of the churches in Michigan, the Village Church, and it's predominantly white church. But that's where I actually got the idea, because another woman started it, and she came to the pastor and she said, "Hey, we have nothing." And that church gave us a room, and they gave us they created a single parents Sabbath school. So that's an idea. So it didn't take us away from being church, but we had a moment where we could be together privately, not being pitied, not being looked down, or it being ignored. Because what the church does a lot of time is just kind of ignore us. You get to the point where you don't want to go to church because you don't want to hear, you don't want to feel different, you don't want to feel alone.
Yeah.
You feel so isolated, right? So but Sabbath, we had a single parent Sabbath school. And then that church really, for Valentine's Day, guess what? They had a single parents and Valentine's Day just for single mothers. And they gave us a banquet, and they took the kids, and they just made us feel special because we're alone, right? So there are a lot of creative things that can happen, but that little group, that cohort, we are still like sisters now. And we got to a point where we became each other's support group, so much so that we picked each other's kids up because somebody always is running late. And the church, when my van pulled up, they just threw all the single mothers' kids in there. They didn't even ask, or who are you picking up? They just threw them all in, because that's how close we became. So we're going to have to start. The church can do things. So
I think it's about just being intentional, the church being intentional about it. So yeah. Being intentional about it, and really just taking out the time when you do sell single parent, like start building a rapport with them, start building a relationship with them, because if I'm just meeting a single parent for the first time, they're not gonna let me watch their kids, to meet me on day one. But if I start befriending them and spending time with them and inviting them over and things like that, so you can start building those trusted relationships, then maybe you can't take
and
advantage.
that helps you not to assume things too, because you have that report, so then you're able to assess that need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody not like that. But transitioning into this on this point, because we want to make sure that despite how the family comes together, no one wants their child to be emotionally broken. And a lot of times, in order to avoid creating a situation like that, what we can do many times is say, well, I'm going to do the opposite of what happened to me. And then we still get into other extremes. And because I talk about this all the time, because we never really learn the middle ground of how to provide that love, that care and support that would create a situation for a child to be more emotionally stable. So the question is how can I develop emotionally stable children? Or emotionally not emotionally stable, that's flip, but emotionally healthy children. I mean, we all want. I mean, I'm pressing for that, but it's like they say, the harder you push, the more crazy you make them. So it's like that. Yeah, how do we do that, y'all?
I think I mentioned it before. Understanding first, you have to understand. For us, it was understanding human temperament. Like I said, every child is not the same. And you work from there. If you know that your child is sensitive, or if you know if your child is hard shell, you hopefully will get the information as to how to raise them. But emotionally, I think you have to. It's love. Do you love your children?
Yeah,
that's most important.
I mean, some children love
the children.
Love.
Some children come into the world, they're just here. Their parents are not embracing them or loving them or gently guiding them. But love, reaching out, and really, I guess the emotional attachment has a lot to do with it too. But that you have with your child, parent to child. But understanding human temperament is a good start.
Absolutely. And the other thing, I think adults that become parents, they have to actually come to the point where we accept the fact that we are open to being loving parents. May I become revelatory?
Come on now.
Come on now.
Revelated it.
Yeah. I grew up poor.
Okay.
I did not aspire to be a parent. I did not aspire to be a parent.
Come on.
To the degree that I ended up apologizing to my children.
Wow.
Because I was a distant parent, and I used the church.
Come on now.
Come on now. That's real stuff now.
I told you I'm gonna talk real talk.
Come on now.
Be revelatory.
People need to hear.
I used the church as a way of staying distant from my responsibilities as a parent.
Intentionally.
I'm sorry. I'm getting excited.
Go to preach, Pastor.
I'm gonna be cool.
This is good. This is good.
Mercy.
Wow.
It was years. It was years before I learned to tell my sons that I loved them and hug them.
Yes.
And let them know I love you. Y'all are awesome.
And your daughter?
And I didn't have a problem with my daughter. The daughter was easy. That was easier. But why did I start that revelatory path? But that was my journey. And I declare, I believe I got all that straightened out now.
Praise the Lord. Yeah, your kids turned out pretty good.
I have a question.
I believe I got it all straightened out. Yeah. But it took some time.
But you're speaking to somebody because I want to hear what Denise has to say.
Pastor
because Pastor Williams too. Because what you're saying, it happens to men and women. Either I didn't want this pregnancy. You see what I'm saying? Or I'm with someone who wanted a baby, but I really don't want a baby. You see what I'm saying? This kind of thing. And a lot of times, Pastor, it's not
an easy way to stop that.
Right. It is easy.
But Pastor, a lot of times with people who, and I appreciate the transparency, it's not that the person is a bad person. It's relative sometimes to an experience, because I was similar. It's relative to an experience maybe that you had to where I'm not ready for this kind of responsibility. I don't desire this responsibility. But then when certain things change in me, then I become more open, more welcome, more mature. But it doesn't mean that it's a bad person. If it's a mother who had a child, didn't want the child, because see, a lot of times what happens is sometimes with single mothers, they'll get pregnant. They're trying to stay with this guy. They get pregnant. And then when we find out he's not going to be around, then it just changes the whole dynamic as far as me wanting to be a parent. Because before you came into the picture, I had goals as far as what I wanted to do. You shut that down. I thought that I was going to get a good sale to be with you. But then, and so this becomes an emotion. You're hitting on some stuff. Go ahead, Dr. Williams, and then we'll go to Dr. Shaver.
Yeah, first I just want to affirm Pastor Johnson for being transparent like that. As a pastor, and understanding, listen, as growing, be able to say, hey, listen, I was not there. And I think that says a whole lot. Both you and your wife mentioned earlier, being able to know your child. I think what you guys did, just, I don't know if intentionally, your wife mentioned, being able to know your child. And what you're saying is knowing yourself. Mm-hmm. And understanding, hey, there's some deficiencies that I had growing up, and we all carry that baggage into our families. And being able to understand that, and then just being able to not just understand it, but to acknowledge it, to say to your sons, hey, listen, I'm not the best fathers. And to see your boys now and to see how they're parenting says a lot about breaking that generational curse, for them to be able to be there for their children. And I've seen how your oldest hangs out with his son, and just I want to be there. And I think what you've done is create an environment to where that healthy, positive experience can happen, and it is possible. And that, our pastors' kids are not the worst. I think, just being able to say, shout out to quality pastors' kids. You and your wife are doing a phenomenal job in that. But I think just being able to understand initial question was, answering how do we create emotionally healthy kids? And I think they've kind of shared that, being able to understand who you are, because we carry stuff with our kids, and being able to understand for me has been helpful, is allowing my kids to say, okay, we're going this direction because there is a history of, these are some things that are part of my side of the family and your mom's side of the family, understanding those things. And when you respond this way, or when you see these different triggers, this is where we have to address as a family. And I think some of those, understanding where we are, what we bring to the table, makes a difference. And then understanding that we're going to make mistakes. There are going to be moments where we're going to, for whatever reason, drop the ball, and allow our kids to own up to that. And that's one of the reasons I really appreciate just that accountability, as Pastor Johnson mentioned, and being able to say, hey, listen, I didn't do it. I'm not the best. And I don't think we have to be, our kids can kind of see, beyond what we put in front of each other, especially going to church. And we kind of have those, yes, sir, happy Sabbath, God bless you. Mm-hmm. And they know that on the other side. So I think that transparency, that for them to be able to see who we are, to be transparent, say, hey, this is who I am all the time. And understand, God is still working in you, and doing that makes a difference. So they can see emotional stability is not being perfect. It's understanding you're being perfected.
Yes.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. All right. Well, I just saw a thing in the chat that I had to mention, because a single mother had said, please, churches have mentorship. That's a real great big way you could help. And I agree. Back to the question, though, I wanted to ask Choya. A counselor said to me one time, you can only take somebody as far as you've gone. And so I don't know if that's true, but so many of us come in to parenting with our own emotional deficits, baggage. Can we take our kids further than where we are?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Somebody actually put in the chat, they said, be the best version of yourself. That's the best gift that you can give your child. And I thought that was so profound. So that means you're parenting as a whole person, void of any, you've gotten the help that you need. You got the tools that you need to thrive and be your best version. So then you're able to give your child, an example of what that looks like.
Definitely.
But if you don't have it.
Yeah, but if you don't have it, that's the question.
If you don't
Which most of us don't have it, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And so what we do want to do is avoid extremes. And we want to lower the expectation of ourselves. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we know we don't have certain things, but then what is it that you suppose that you should have? Do you see what I'm saying? And a lot of times what we think we're looking at, you see what I'm saying? We're not looking at, look at what Pastor said, Pastor Johnson. We see his children, we see their family, and it came out well. But some of the things that we aspire, it's like, you need to know more about this story. And that's why we need to be more transparent, because there are people who need to understand the story so that they can relate, and then not put too much on themselves, too much expectations, but be able to understand that as humans, we will learn and we will grow as God guides us. Do you see what I'm saying? And so these kinds of things, the exposure to transparency, like we would not know this because things came out very well. Do you see what I'm saying? But that's the point, Denise. That's the point, Dr. Shaver, is by the grace of God, he covers what we're not able to provide.
That's right.
Because I think the idea of taking kids further than we've gone, I think we have to create, I think as mentioned earlier, systems in place so that as just from a financial perspective, it's different from my, like you mentioned, Pastor Johnson, I grew up poor, I don't have, going back to my parents' house, it's like, man, we lived here. Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is, we can create systems in place where we can expose our kids. And somebody asked a question, well, what if you don't know the best version of yourself? This is where it's education terms. You have to learn to be a lifelong learner, to constantly be growing, constantly finding ways to grow. I literally just before we got on, updated my phone. And from iPhone 15 or whatever, iOS 15 to iOS 16, we have to constantly be upgrading. We have to find the seminars, we have to find the same ways we do with our phones. We have to be intentional about growing, taking sort of whatever it is we do, reading books, finding creative ways, attending seminars like this, so that you can say, okay, this is where I am. But as I continue growing and I set a model of growth and personal development, then my kids can see, okay, this is the direction I need to go, and understanding that this is a process. Philippians 1:6 says, he who began a good work in you will continue to perform until the day of Jesus Christ. And if we take that model on and understanding God is working on us and perfecting us and grooming us and preparing us for a prepared place. And as we do that, our kids will say, okay, it's not about being perfect. It's understanding I'm here for the journey.
Absolutely.
One of my prayers when we were having children, when children were coming along, was, God, take the best of what we have and make it better. And truly, God has done that. And so we don't take any credit. Thank you, Toussaint. Thank you, Joy, for your comments and compliments, but hey, it was all Jesus. I'm gonna tell you, it was all Jesus.
Somebody in the chat said that. Somebody said prayer, and we know that God covers us and takes us further, right? That's the whole Christian journey, is that, right? When that we don't look like what we've been through, isn't that? And hopefully our kids don't look like what we put them through, and what they put us through. We all don't look. But God has to definitely take us across the finish line. Right?
Yeah. And
I was going to share just a really quick, just thinking about my situation with my mom. Like, my mom lost her mother when she was 8 years old. She got pregnant with her first child when she was 14 years old. So her life was just, she just had a hard life. And so I remember having a few resentments growing up because there were some things that I felt like I needed from her that she didn't give. But then once I became an adult and when I found Christ, I was able to see that my mom gave me what she had. She gave me what she had. And I thank God that I'm able to be where I am today because he does cover it. He covers us. He protects us. We're here at the end of the day. We're his children, whether our parents are broken or not. He allowed us to come into the world, and he's covering us. He's going to protect us. We're still supposed to do our part, do the best that we can do as parents, but God is going to cover our children. And I'm a living testament of that.
Like that book said, that commercial said something about that there's no book or whatever. It's no way to just be, to be a great parent. When I was in school, they could identify was abnormal, but they couldn't identify what was normal. So I think it's just, we do the best that we can. I think it is important when we do know that there are places in us in our lives, and God tells us that need to be nurtured and developed, that we do get that help and support, because it is easy to pass off things unnecessarily to our children because of insecurities of our own. Some of our own insecurities will cause our children to have other insecurities. So if I'm a real anxious parent and I just want the best and I was real insecure, then I'm going to do all this stuff. And so it may place an unneeded expectation on my child, and then they come out just as anxious as me or more. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes the more that we work to undo what's going on with ourselves, the easier it is for us to be just awesome parents. Where are we? I think it's time to land this plane. I can't believe this time is spent already. Y'all have just been awesome. I don't know what I was thinking. We had a number of other questions to ask, but I think that this was really needed because I think we hit on some points that maybe from the feedback and things that some people need to hear some of this. I know it was very encouraging for me. So I just want to thank all the panelists for contributing to this discussion. I've learned a lot. I'm hoping that you all out there have learned a lot, and I hope that you all have enjoyed this series. This is the thing. If you have not seen it all, you need to go back and check, because there are some awesome sessions that were provided throughout this series, and you could just click in if you're not already a part of logged in as a subscriber. Go on and subscribe. You can get future things from us. But we just want to thank you all for coming out, and God bless you. We're going to transition, and then we'll be back to close it on out. Oh,
just pray. We pray. Close out.
Oh, we're going to close it now. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's go on and close it. All right. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the opportunity, Lord, to speak to your people, Lord. We thank you for the message that was given. And like Pastor Snell said today, whatever was communicated, whatever was good or whatever was faulty on us, we ask you that the way that by the time it makes it to the people, that your word, that your truths will resonate with them, and that we will see the changes in the church that we need, Lord. We ask you to help us to be able to step up as individuals, to help the parents, help the single parents, help the married parents, because a lot of people are suffering in the church, and we've got to get to the point to where we're willing to talk about the tough stuff. And I think that's what this series has been all about. So we just ask you, Lord, to extend your hand and your protection over every single person that has viewed this session today. And we just ask you at the end, when judgment time comes, that we'll be saved in your kingdom. In your name we pray. Amen.
Man. See y'all.